Special Kids Intervention Program and TIPSY, which is an acronym for Toddler Infant Program for Special Education, are two distinct programs merged into one site that provides services to developmentally delayed children from birth, right out of the NICU, up to age 5. Special Kids Intervention Program is called a CPSE, Preschool Special Ed Program. CPSE standing for Committee on Preschool Special Education under the auspices of the New York City Department of Education. Each child is evaluated, has a meeting with the city representative, and has an IEP, Individual Educational Plan, generated for them. This plan documents, it's a legal document, documenting what services the child is to receive. And in most cases, it's a special education classroom with the appropriate therapies, which could be speech, OT, PT, and counseling. Some of our children don't need a classroom, and parents bring them here just for what's called related services of speech, OT, PT, or counseling. But they're not in a classroom. Their developmental levels of cognitive functioning are such that they don't need a special ed classroom. TIPSY, Toddler Infant Program for Special Ed, is not under the auspices of the Department of Education, but rather it's more of a medical model. And residents, that's probably more familiar to you. This is under the auspices of Department of Health, New York City Early Intervention Program. So TIPSY is an agency that can evaluate, as can our preschool program. Once referrals are made to the appropriate office based on a pediatrician's referral, a foster care agency's referral, a parent's referral, where they have concerns about their baby or toddler, we can evaluate the baby or toddler. Reports are written, sent to the city, and a meeting is held if the child is eligible. And then TIPSY provides these services to the babies and the toddlers in the home of the baby up until age 2. And then when the child turns 2, the parents have the option of bringing them here to the center. So we have provided services to infants as young as 11 days of age. Most recently, baby was born with Down syndrome. He was automatically eligible even without having evaluations done because of the nature of the disorder. And therapists immediately went into the home to monitor and assist the parents with feeding, tongue thrust, movement, and then as the evaluations went on, the type of intervention was more specific to the specific needs. Children, when they turn 2, can come here to the center for 2 hours a day, receiving similar therapies as our preschool children. The population that each of our divisions serves are children in the, for the preschool is children in the neighboring boroughs. Usually it's Queens and Brooklyn. We could service children in Bronx, Staten Island, Manhattan, but the purpose of having them come here and being on a bus for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, is really inappropriate for preschoolers. So most of our children are within an hour's bus ride. Western Brooklyn, Eastern Brooklyn, Northern Queens, Southern Queens, probably not as far as New York Hospital and Flushing, but we could if a parent was interested. TIPSY only provides services from this site to the Queens population. We have a site on Staten Island, which covers that borough, but neither Staten Island site nor our site cover Manhattan, Bronx, and Brooklyn. The areas, the catchment area for TIPSY could be any and all areas of Queens, dependent upon the availability of a therapist in that area to go into the children's home. In addition to the talking about the population, where the children reside, is really what kind of a population we serve. As I mentioned earlier, we can provide services to infants right out of the NICU with any medical diagnosis that has come about. We may not serve as the evaluation site if we feel my therapists aren't skilled in perhaps vision, some medical issues that my therapists are not familiar with, but we would then refer to other agencies. Each family is given what's called a service coordinator to oversee the evaluation and the monitoring of the services to these babies and toddlers. And the population issues, the developmental issues, really range from Down syndrome, CP, spina bifida, feeding issues, positive toxicology to drugs, just a general unspecified developmental delay. As they get older, the delays really run the gamut from language delays, fine motor, gross motor, serious emotional issues, and the most prevalent new developmental disorder, of course, is the autistic population. And it is growing, as I'm sure you're aware, and we have a large population of children with that disorder. I really applaud Cornell New York Hospital for setting up this program because, as you're probably aware, some of the more old-time pediatricians were not given opportunities to learn very much about developmental issues in children. Your expertise, as rightly so, is in the medical domain. But to me, as an educator, the developmental part of a child is equally important to any of their medical issues. So I think this liaison between my program and the hospital is to sensitize new pediatricians to what constitutes a developmental delay, and then what happens after you, as the physician, have an uncomfortable feeling that something may not be right in the child's development. Where do you go with this information? How do you refer them? And what happens after the evaluations are done? What type of services are put into place after you've had this uncomfortable feeling that Johnny is not developing the way he should? So this wonderful liaison program has given you the opportunity to visit here, and I welcomed it. This has been in existence for, oh my goodness, I think at least 3 years now, maybe going on 4 years, where each of you will have the opportunity to be here, first to meet with me, where I'll be doing a little bit of what I'm doing right now on the video, giving you an overview of who we are and what we do with the children. And then comes the hands-on part, where you'll have an opportunity to observe, firstly in a classroom setting, because I always feel it's appropriate to see the general makeup of children in a group. How does the teacher work with a large group of children, large to up to 12? And after that, I have an opportunity to observe individual children in their therapy sessions. It's been very rewarding, from what I hear, to the past residents to observe occupational therapy, physical therapy, as well as speech. What I would hope is that through your coursework and your internship and residency, that someone has already given you some sense of the developmental background of children and the developmental needs of children. In addition, knowing that we particularly serve children from all different types of families, from the lowest socioeconomic area to highly educated and high socioeconomic area, just to be sensitive, as I'm sure you are, and I try to impress my staff to that, to be sensitive to the family dynamics, which has a huge impact on the developmental levels of a child. A child who is not read to, where there are no toys in the house, where the parents are struggling with finances and just putting food on the table, unfortunately are not able to give the child time to interact in a manner that will increase their development. Similarly, from the other end, there's some, even though they have high education levels, parents are working very hard and are not skilled in parenting skills, which I'm hoping that the doctors can help at least sensitize parents to what a child really needs. As the residents are here observing, both in classrooms and in therapy sessions, I would hope that through my discussion with them and through their observation, they would leave here with several new bits of information. One being, this is how therapy works for children once you as the physician have a concern about their development. This is what a therapy session looks like. This is what the skills of the therapist brings to the children. And also, more critical for you rather than how a therapy session works, is where to go with your concerns. I share that with the residents before we begin, but I would hope that you would now have hands-on. Go to the school district, go to your social work office, go to the parent, have a list of agencies that you could call. There are many, many, many programs in Queens. Doesn't have to be this one. So I hope you can leave with at least a provider, with an understanding that there's a provider directory of where you can refer the family. Lastly, there is an organization called Early Childhood Direction Center. I can individually give the phone numbers to the residents, and that's a good source of referrals for you. The way I believe you can keep your hands in the pot, so to speak, would be frequent contact with programs such as this, frequent contact with Early Childhood Direction Center, through visits, through referrals, through giving of your input and your wonderful expertise into programs. I personally would welcome you as a resident, and you, once you have your practice open, welcome presentations to parents, presentations to my staff on issues that you can bring to us that I can't give to my staff, such as nutrition, such as medical issues, any and all. I'm not going to list them here, but any and all expertise that you could bring to my parents and staff would be most helpful.